yeah, I think what is happening now with CCN, excuse me, with CCN, is that it's actually revolutionizing our world. Because I think you are just like I am, absolutely fed up with the brainwashing television that we see on the mainstream. So it's, I think, very important that we now join our hands together and support this beautiful platform of CCN. Okay, I'll share my screen now and I'll start my presentation. Hope it's working. Okay, I hope you see what I see. The opening page of Pateo TV. Yeah, at this moment, I don't know exactly what time it is at your place when you're watching it, but in GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, this program starts every Thursday at 7 p.m. And I now have the time until 9 p.m. So I can broadcast 2 hours of live television on holy science. If you have any questions for me during the show, after the show, before the next show, you can always send me an email. Make it, please, as short as possible, because there are many things I want to do, but I will always try to answer each and every one of them. Okay, maybe you've heard this saying. It's from the guy who has the same first name as I do, Johan Wolfgang von Goethe, and it's about 200 years ago. He said, "No, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free." And I think that's very true. Many people assume that they are free, that they live in a free world, but I think it's time to investigate how great that freedom actually is. Most of the time, we're not really free at all. And another guy, yeah, one of my absolute heroes is Leonardo da Vinci. He said, "The noblest pleasure is the joy of understanding." And I think he was a very joyful man because he understood so many things. And the, the key part of this presentation, of this second episode of Pateo TV, is about the painting he made, the famous Last Supper. And of course, we'll come back to this great scholar of many things, Leonardo da Vinci. Many people know this saying, "The truth will set you free." Well, you have to know what this really means, because yes, like this, it's not really clear. First of all, we need to understand it's about the whole truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. That is what will set us free. And the truth itself does not do anything. It is us that is doing it. So we need to know the truth. And by knowing the truth, we are able to set us free. But then we still have to do something, which is applying that truth. So the correct full statement is, knowing and applying the whole truth will set you free. Of course, it's a bit longer than the short one. It means the same, but in order to understand the full meaning, I think it's best to add these extra words. And what is CCN doing? CCN is actually informing you about the truth. I have many colleagues, and they all share their own truth with you. And that's what I'm doing in this broadcast as well. What I always tell to my audience, do not believe a single word that I'm saying, because it's my truth that I'm sharing. But in order for you to become it also your truth, you have to validate it first. So check every word that I'm saying before you accept it as being true. And all the truth that I found, all that I have discovered, I united that, I integrated that into a single whole, and that whole is called holy science. So holy science is the science of it all, of the whole. If you've not watched the previous part, the first episode of Pateo TV, and you're not watching this live, then I really recommend you to stop this video now and look up the other video, the previous one, on internet. You can find it on the website of CCN, of course. You can also find it on my website, Pateo.nl. But if you simply go to YouTube and you type in Pateo TV, you'll find it immediately. Or Pateo TV episode 1, it's immediately there. And just watch that first part before you watch this video, because many things I explain in that video, you need that in this video to understand it. So if you've not watched it, and you're watching this live, then I'm really sorry for you. Some parts you will not get fully. Maybe later when you watch the other video as well. Yeah, the previous video was about the clock of Giza, and it's actually about the 3 dimensions of time. The daily time, the yearly time, and the third dimension is the great year. And in this presentation, the next presentation, which I'm giving now, the presentation that I'm giving now after this one, is about that second dimension of time. Because that's what we are now. We are now here, astrotheology. And this picture I already showed in the previous episode, in the first episode of Pateo TV, and I explained a little bit about it. But in this presentation, in this second episode, I will go into much deeper into this, and I think it's very fascinating. Next week, I'm already making you addicted to this program. Hopefully, next week I will talk about the first chapter of Genesis, and Genesis is the first book of the Bible and also the first book of the Torah, and they say also the first book of Moses. So it's the first very chapter of these books, and that chapter is very important because it has nothing to do with belief. It has everything to do with science. It's a scientific chapter, and that chapter I will explain in detail next broadcast of Pateo TV, broadcasted on January 22nd. So put it in your agenda if you want. If you want to support my work, which I would really appreciate, is then I ask you to buy this ebook. Actually, it is 10 consecutive ebooks because I combined the 13 chapters into one or 2 chapters into one book, and in total it has 468 pages. Just to get started, you can buy the first book, and then you automatically get, the first chapter. You can automatically receive the second chapter for free, and that only costs you €5, or in USA dollars 6.83. And then you can decide for yourself if you want to buy the whole book or not. It's very simple. Or you can also buy the next ebook until you reach the total of 30, and then you get them all. Yeah, you can pay by bank transfer, but you can also pay via PayPal. That's both possible. So if you are interested in what I'm telling here, Holy Science, I'm only telling a very small part in these broadcasts of Pateo TV. If you want to know the whole story, the whole science of Holy Science, then I really advise you to buy this book. Simply send me an email and then I'll explain to you how it works. So the subject of this broadcast is astrotheology, and that is actually a word. Oh, actually I made a typing error there, typo. It's a combination of 3 words, astro, theos, and logos. Astro means the stars, theos means God actually, and logos means the logic. So it's about the logic of God that is written in the stars. Or we can say it differently, the stars are explaining to us what the logic of God is. That's in essence the meaning of astrotheology. And these 4 great scholars of astrotheology have been really helping me a lot to understand it. I've learned a lot of these 4 colleagues of mine. Yeah, Jordan Maxwell, I think he was the first one to come up with astrotheology. Of course, there were many before him, but in our time and day, I think he was the first. And he did a marvelous job by explaining so many things. Many videos of him are still online, and you can see them. Bill Donahue, I think it's almost countless how many videos he has made. If you go to his website, hiddenmeanings.com, you will find very much information about this. A good friend of mine, Santos Bonacci, he also came to the Netherlands in 2013. I invited him to come over to Amsterdam, and we did a lecture together. And his website is Universal Truth School, and he has also a YouTube channel. I think all of them have, and there you can find many very interesting presentations. And you can learn so many interesting stuff about the ancient scriptures and what they really mean, because most of the cases they're all about astrotheology. All ancient myths, all ancient stories, all holy scriptures, they're all referring to that. And last but certainly not least is Michael Tarian. Yeah, he learned it from Jordan Maxwell. By the way, both Michael Tarian and Jordan Maxwell are not real names, but that doesn't really matter. That's the names they use, and I think that's okay. But he learned a lot from Jordan Maxwell, and he took it over, so to say. And yeah, he has even an incredible amount of very interesting videos. So if you like what I'm telling here in this broadcast, then I really advise you to look up these four websites and and start wherever you want to start. There's so much here to learn, and it's all very fascinating. At least I think it's very fascinating. The subject of this episode of Pateo TV is The Last Supper. It is a magnificent painting by Leonardo da Vinci, and he was not just a painter or a sculptor or whatever, he was a holy scientist. He studied everything, but he knew also, excuse me, he knew also everything there is to know about astrotheology. And that is what he presented here. And it must have been a great joy for him to showing this understanding to the public. And he did it in such a marvelous way that ignorant people do not know that he actually painted astrotheology. They think that he painted 13 persons, 13 human individuals, and they are sitting together and having a kind of supper. Well, that's not what he painted. But in order to explain all that, that will be at the end of this broadcast. Then I will come back to this. But before that, I have to explain you so many things about astrotheology, and then you can fully appreciate what he has painted. Many people have also explained this, but I think I'm the first who explains it in full detail. So I will show many, many details in this painting, which I don't think anybody else has presented before, except myself, of course. And yeah, let us start by this saying. It's also in the Bible, and it says that a wise man builds his house on rock, while a not so wise man builds his house on sand. And then it starts to rain, and the water comes, and the wind comes, and the house that was built on sand that crumbles down, that gets broken down, and it totally disappears. Let me give you one example, because this is not about belief. Some people say you have faith that is based on rock. No, that's not true. It's about science. It's about knowing. Your knowing, your science, your understanding, that has to be based on rock. If it is based on sand, then it will collapse one day. For instance, if you believe that about 2000 years ago, a man was crucified, was nailed on a cross in order to take care of your sins right here and right now, then that is your belief system. But the moment it turns out that that story was not historically correct, then your house will crumble down, your house will collapse, and your faith system will disappear. So make very sure what you believe and what you not believe. In fact, I advise you, do not believe anything at all. Make sure that you know what your house is built upon. Make sure that it is true. And if it's not true, then simply put it apart. Don't build your house with it. Yeah, whether it's true or not true, maybe you don't know. I have also many things I don't know, but I'm not building my house on that. Yeah, that's not a material that I can use for a door or a window or a wall, because it will fall down if it's not true. So to me, the rock where we can all build our house upon is holy science. And what I'm bringing here with this broadcast of Pateo TV is more and more understanding about what holy science truly is. And a very important part of holy science is, of course, astrotheology, because it tells us what God is and how we can understand the work of God. And that's key, of course. This is what I explained previously last week in the first episode of Pateo TV, and that is about the first dimension of time, the daily time. The moment the sun rises, the moment the sun Helios comes above the horizon, then it becomes light, and then the sun travels through the sky, through the heaven, makes some kind of arc movement. And around midday, the sun Helios is at its highest point. It's sitting high up its throne. And then it descends again until the sun totally disappears under the horizon again when the sun is setting. So that is the daily dynamics of sunrise until sun sets, and then the sun is under the horizon and comes back again, sunrise. That's the daily dimension. The second dimension is the same, but then it's about the arc. The arc becomes bigger and bigger, and also the sun climbs higher and higher until June 21. And after that, it stays 3 days at the same position. For 3 days, that movement is dead, so to say. And then it starts to descend all the way back to December 21. And then it's at its lowest point. And also there, that bow, that arc is dead for 3 days. And after being dead for 3 days, the sun Helios rises again. And on December 25, the bow is a little bit bigger and the sun rises a little bit higher than the day before. That's the second dimension of time. It's about the heavenly arc of the sun Helios, which is growing until it grows until it reaches its highest bow, and then it descends again until it reaches its smallest bow, and then it rises again, on and on. And the third dimension of time, will not be in this presentation because this presentation is mostly about the second dimension of time. This is what it was called in ancient Egypt, which I prefer to call Kemet. In Kemet, the name of the sun, I call the sun Helios, but the ancient Kemetians named it Horus. And Horus is rising until it's all the way up, and then the name for the same star in the heaven was Ra. Ra, we all know Ra, the sun god, but Ra is actually sun Helios at his highest position, at his noon position. And then the sun sets. And that's where we get the name from, setting. Because set is just the position where the sun is setting. So sunset is the setting of set with TH at the end. But sometimes also spelled with only a T. So Horus is the rising sun and Set is the setting sun. Yeah, the words in English are very clear. Because we can even further, we can say Horus the rising sun, or horizon, or Horus zone. The horizon is a reference to Horus, where Horus is rising above that line, above that horizontal line. And the name Horus comes from the ancient Kemetian word, I'll explain it later, ancient Kemetian word Heru. And Heru means the one, you means the one, who is above, Her. So Her is above and you means the one who is above, Heru. And from that word Heru, that we got not only the Kemetian word Horus, but also the Latin word, which is also the Greek word, by the way, Hora. Yeah, when you go to a university, when they have a PhD celebration or a defense, I'm not sure how to call it, then at the end, someone enters the room and they say, Hora est. It is time. The time is up. We have to stop. So that's what we get the word Hora from. It's all from the ancient word Heru. And coming back to evening, evening is making it even. So the word evening is the period after the setting of the sun, after set. So we have, we can say 3 different types of bows. Actually, there are many in between as well. The biggest one, that's the one of the, we start with the smallest one. The smallest one is the one of the winter solstice at December 21. The summer solstice is about at June 21. And in between, we get the equinoxes, where the period of the light is 12 hours and the period of darkness is also 12 hours. And it happens twice in a year, at the spring equinox and the vernal equinox. Am I saying it correctly? No, the vernal equinox, and the autumnal equinox. Now we go to the 3 cults. In ancient Kemet, there were 3 different cults. And we can say them, they were Ak cult, because Ak means hidden. And cult just means culture. So you can say a kind of celebration or honoring. So 3 different types of secret honoring. The stellar cults honored the stars. The solar cult honored the sun, Helios. And the lunar cults honored the moon. And I call the moon Luna. So those were the 3 cults. A sun worshipping cult, a moon worshipping cult, and a star worshipping cult. But the stars they are not the stars as we normally think, because the stars, what is meant here mostly, are the planets that are reflecting sunlight. Yeah, for instance, when you can see my mouse, I'm pointing now to what seems to be a star, if you're not familiar with this, but it's actually Saturn. And Saturn is a planet, and the planet is bouncing back the sunlight that is coming back to our surface, to the surface of the planet we live on. And then we see a star. I think, at least we think that we see a star, but it's not a star, it's a planet, planet reflecting the light. Just like the moon, Luna is not giving light herself, she's just reflecting sunlight. Yeah, to make a little joke, which is more important, the sun or the moon? Well, it's of course the moon, but in the night, because in the night we need the light more than in the daytime. I hope you get this silly joke. Yeah, here we see Mars. Mars is of course not a star either. It's a planet reflecting the sunlight, and here you see Venus. So in the night you see not only the stars, but also sometimes planets reflecting the lights. Well, those planets reflecting sunlight, they are worshipped mostly in the stellar cult. Yeah, here we see again the red line here is the ecliptic. That's the path the sun, Helios, is taking. Actually, we're going around, but I will not make it too complicated to understand. From our perspective, that's the path the sun is taking. And here we see, for instance, Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, reflecting sunlight. And now he is in front of Gemini, the constellation of Gemini, twins. And here we see the constellation of Taurus. You see the two horns of the bull. And in between those holes, we see Mars, we see Venus, and this is Saturn, and this is Mercury. So we can see all those planets in front of, in the heavenly sky, in the night sky, as stars. That's the stellar cult is all about. And here we see the constellation of Orion. I will come back to it later, with this bigger star, Betelgeuse. Yeah, Betelgeuse is in between, so to say, Gemini and Taurus, but then a little bit to the south. Here we see the 7 wandering lights. These lights wander in front of the fixed stars of the zodiac. So they are travelers, so to say. And our 7 days of the week, they are named after these 7 travelers, these 7 wandering lights. And the order you see them here, that is the order in which they travel around. So the fastest moving traveler is the moon, Luna, all the way to the left. It takes her, from our perspective, 29.5 days to make a full circle, to make a full completion. But that again is from our perspective. From the perspective of the moon Luna, it takes her about 27.3 days of our home planet days, so 24 hours days, to go around our home planet Terra. But from our perspective, it's the fastest moving light. It's about 1 month time, and I will come back to that because that's why we call it a month. It's named after the moon. The month is moon. Mercury is the second fastest moving light. And to me, Mercury is a female planet because of the sign underneath it. Some say it's a male and a female planet. Well, that's also true, but in this presentation, I will focus on the female part. And here we see Venus. Yeah, for Mercury, it takes 88 days to make a full completion, to make a full circle from our perspective. And no, it's not true. 88 days from the perspective of Mercury itself. And then 225 from the perspective of Venus. And then, of course, we go around Helios, but from our perspective, it looks like Helios is going around us in 365 and almost a quarter of a day. Then we get Mars. Mars requires 687 days, which is 1.88 years of our years. And then it takes about 12 years for Jupiter to go around and about 30 years for Saturn to go around, to make a full circle, to make a full orbit around Helios. So here we see about 30 days, and this is about 30 years. That's the perspective, that's the range that we are talking about. So now let us go to the days of the week. The first one is simple. because Moon Day is Monday, or Monday is Moon Day. But Wednesday is Mercury Day. But yeah, the name Wednesday doesn't give us any clue about Mercury. But when we go to French, in French it's mercredi. And Mercury, yeah, they are very similar. They are getting closer. And the same is true for Friday, because Friday is Venus Day. But yeah, the name Friday doesn't tell us much. But vendredi in French is of course pointing to Venus. So vendredi is Venus Day. And then we go to dimanche in French, but it's not clear. But in English it's much more clear because it's Sunday, the day of the sun, and I call the sun Helios. Then we go to Mars Day, and again in English it's not clear. Tuesday and Mars, what does Tuesday and Mars have to do with each other? But in French it's clear, it's mardi. And when we put an extra S in between, then we get Marsdi, the day of Mars. And then Jupiter Day. Well, in English we say Thursday, but Thursday, Thurs and Jupiter, what is the connection? I'll explain that later. In French we say jeudi, and jeudi is Jupiter Day. But in Italian it's even more clear, because in Italian it's Giove Day, and Giove is the Italian word for Jupiter Day. So when I would go to Italy and ask somebody in Italian, do you know which day of the week is named after Jupiter? Then they will look at me as if I'm stupid, because they will immediately say, it's Jehovah D. It's the D of Jehovah. But if I ask that to somebody who speaks English, well, they don't get the question, they can answer the question correctly, because most of the time they don't know that. So depending on which language you use. And yeah, in English it's of course Saturday and Saturn easy, because we only have to add an extra N after Saturn, and then we get Saturn Day. So Saturn Day is Saturday. But the ordering of the days of the week is a bit different, because to me, Luna Day or Monday or Moon Day is the first, but Mercury is not the second day. Wednesday is not the second day, but the third day, and so on. But if you look carefully to these numbers, you see that all odd numbers are left and the even numbers are right, and it's also going upwards. So of course there's a rhythm. I will show that later on. Yeah, because the three females are here. Luna, Mercury, and Venus, they are three female planets, and these three are three male planets, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And this is not a planet, this is a star. And that is what we also see at the Merkaba. Yeah, the Merkaba, the menorah, excuse me, the menorah has 7 arms, and these arms are precisely as I showed before, because later I will show that Luna is connected with Saturn. So that's a connection here. A female and a male is connected. The same is true for Mercury and Jupiter. Also female-male connection, yin-yang. And Venus is of course connected with Mars. It's an important connection. And then in the middle we find the Sun. If we add up 1 and 6, we get 7. If we add up 3 and 4, we get 7. If we add up 5 and 2, we get 7. And of course the middle is 7. The very same is true when we look at a dice. The opposite sides of a dice always add up to 7. But it's also true for the menorah, if we understand the days of the week correctly. So Monday is Moon Day, the day of Luna. And in ancient times there were very different names used to refer to the moon. For instance, Nana in ancient Sumer, or Chandra is a Sanskrit name for, the name for in ancient India for the moon. Artemis, Selene, ancient Greece, and Diana was from the Roman time. Lady Diana is actually a reference to the moon. And in Latin it's called Luna. So that's the name I use now for this planet, because I think, or this moon has is entitled to an own name, and given name. And moon is just a sort, and it's a type name. So it's not, I think it's very disrespectful to use a type name instead of a given name. So that's why I refer to her as Luna. But we can also call her Sin, which was done in Babylonia. And anyone who worships this beautiful planet is, of course, a sinner. So sinner is a reference to worshipper of the moon, Luna. This is the second day of the week, Tuesday, we say in English. But it was in ancient Nordic time, the name of this planet Mars was Tyr. So it's actually Tyr's day, and Tyr's day became eventually Tuesday. So Tues comes from Tyr's. In ancient Greek it was called Ares, and Mars is of course the ancient Roman name, but there are many other names as well. Yeah, I'll not go into detail, but all the ancient cultures used different names to refer to those beautiful planets because they consider them gods, gods up in the sky. This is Wednesday. Wednesday comes from Wodan's day because that was the ancient Nordic name for this planet, Mercury. Mercury is Woden. And now we see the confusion because Woden in the ancient mythology from Scandinavia was a male. But in this explanation, I say that this is actually a female planet. And in other presentations, I will also show that's also male. So it's both male and female. But for now, we focus on the female part of this planet. It was called Hermes in ancient Greece. Hermes Trismegistus, I will come back to that later as well, is a reference to this planet. And the same is true for Buddha, or Nabu. If you look at the Star Wars films, the planet Nabu is also there. Yeah, I will come back in the 4th episode of Pateo on Pateo TV on many movies, feature films, and the hidden meaning there, the covert symbolism. Yeah, it's all Mercury. But Wodan is the name we used eventually, and that became Wednesday. So Wednesday comes from Wodan's day. Jupiter. Jupiter is the Latin name. But in ancient Nordic time, the Scandinavian mythology, it's Thor. Thor with the hammer, the lightning coming from the hammer of Thor. Yeah, there are many movies now in the cinema and on the internet. Thor 1 and Thor 2, it's all about this Nordic hero with this big hammer. So Thursday is Thor's day, the day of Thor, or Jupiter, or Zeus, or Marduk, or Enlil, any other name you can use. Thursday comes from Thor's day. And this is the biggest planet in our solar system, a giant. Then we go to Friday, and Friday again comes from the Nordic word Freya. So we should actually say Freya's day, and Freya's day became eventually Friday. It's just a short for Freya's day. But to be more correct, we should actually say Venus day, because now we refer to this planet as Venus. In ancient Greece, this planet had two faces. Aphrodite was a really beautiful woman, really attractive, and many men were attracted to her. But Medusa was a very dangerous witch with all kinds of snakes on her head. And if you looked at her, you become stone, petrified. So that's two sides of this beautiful planet. And one day I will also come back to explain that. There's so much to tell here, but I have to focus on the main storyline. So that's what I'm doing now. This is just an introduction to astrotheology, but the story is much and much bigger than I can explain in 2 hours. And now we go to Saturn. Saturn, the planet with the rings around it. And in ancient Greece, it was called Kronos. And Kronos, you can also write it with CH at the beginning. Then we get chronology. Chronology comes from Kronos, and that's about time. So this is actually Father Time. And why is he Father Time? Because he's the furthest away and he's moving the slowest. He's the slowest visible light moving in front of the stars of the zodiac. So because he's the slowest, he is giving the time. He's giving the pace, so to say. So that's why he's the timekeeper. But many other different names are used as well. El, Eli, Kaivan, Sani, and so on. Yeah, there's much more to tell about this, but for now, we just focus on that he's the slowest moving planet of the visible planets, the planets that bounce sunlight back to our home planet, to the surface, to our eyes. We can see them with our naked eyes, and that's why he is called Father Time. And then, last but most certainly not least, the central star in the middle of our solar system. And I refer to this planet, to this heavenly body as Helios, because again, Sun is just a short name, a type name. Yeah, sun means star, but I think it's very disrespectful to refer to our star as just star. So I think we should give him a name. That's why I use Helios. Um, but in ancient times, there were many other different names. For instance, Utu from Sumer, or Shamash from ancient Babylon, Surya from Sanskrit, and the Maya refer to this beautiful star in the center of our star system, solar system, Ahau. And then we have, of course, Helios, as I said before. It actually was a personification. Helios was a hero from ancient Greece, and I will come back to that. So Helios was personified as a human being, Helios was a human being personifying this star, this ball of light, of heavenly fire. Now we put them in the order of speed they go around. Here we see Luna, she's going around fastest. This is a little bit slower, this is less slower, this is more slower, slower, and this is the slowest. So when we go like this is slowing down of the speed, or when we go like this, it's speeding up of the orbital speed. So that's the ordering. And now we can look at how they are presented, because the female, the yin, are to the left, or from the perspective of the sun, Helios, to the right side, the female side. And on the other side, we find the three male planets. Now we go to the days of the week. Monday is the day of the moon, Luna. Then we go to Mardi, Tuesday, the day of Mars. Then we go to Mercredi, the day of Mercury, the day of, Wednesday in English. Then we continue, we come to Jupiter D, or Thursday, or Jehovah D. And then we continue to Friday. Friday is Venus D, or Freya Day, the day of Freya, Vendredi. And then we go to Saturn Day, the day of Saturn. And then finally, day 7, the end of the week, we arrive at Helios Day, the day of the sun. This is the last day. And then we continue. So we see female, male, female, male, female, male, and then the only star, and then it continues. This is a beautiful rhythm, and I think everybody in primary school should already be taught about this, but most children have no clue about where the days of the week come from. They are all an honoring of the stars. I say stars, but of course I mean the lights in the sky. Again, we see the menorah, but now I focus on Mercury, because Mercury is at the second position. And I want you to remember the word second, because I will come back to that. Second. What does second mean? Second. Here we see the ordering as we perceive it from the middle, from our solar system outwards. The first is the sun, Helios in the middle, and then we see Mercury. And again, Mercury is second. Second is second. Then the next thing I want to explain is the lunar cycle. The lunar cycle starts with the new moon, and then it goes from first quarter to full moon. And then the cycle is halfway. Then it continues to last quarter, and it comes back to full moon. This is the first half of the cycle. This is the yin half, the female half. And this is the second half, the yang half. Later on, I will explain that this is actually the cycle where things go in, and this is where things go out. So if you are a farmer, this is the period where you put your seeds in the soil, and this is the period when you harvest. When you cut your own nails or your own hair, if you cut it in this period, then it will start to grow faster after that. But if you want to save money and don't want to go to the barbershop as much as you do, then you cut your hair in this period, because then it will grow less faster. Most people are completely unaware of this, but this is all about the influence of the lunar energies on our life, and it's on our living, on our own energies here. And it's very important that we know all about this. So the monthly cycle is the monthly cycle. It's the lunar cult. Well, the previous slide here, The weekly cycle is actually the stellar cult, and I will come back to that later, and has everything to do with Mercury second. Yeah, because 5 of the 7 days of the week are all related with the stellar cult. So 5 out of 7 means that this is the stellar cult. This is the lunar cult, the monthly cycle, the moon cycle. And the third cycle is the yearly cycle. So now we can see that those 3 cycles come together in our way of understanding time. The yearly cycle is an honoring of the solar cult, because the yearly cycle takes exactly as long as a full orbit of our home planet around the sun Helios. So a year is honoring of the solar cult. It's related to the solar cult. The monthly cycle is honoring the moon cycle. The monthly period is the monthly period, so it's honoring the moon cycle. And this is, of course, the lunar cult. It's about the correct time. There's a little compromise here, because actually the lunar cycle takes 29.5 days. And when you, for instance, look at the Jewish calendar, then they take month of 30 and 29 on in turns. So that's a more precise moon cycle. And later I will explain that, in fact, Judaism is in fact worshipping mostly the moon. So in fact, all Judaic believers are sinners. But I will come back to that later in another episode of this TV show on CCN. And the weekly cycle is, of course, the reference to the 5 days of the week plus the sun and the moon day. So it's the stellar cult. So that's about the days, the years, the month, and the days. Then we go to the, we could also call this the daily cycle, because every day has a different name, but it's a week is a whole of it. Like a month is also a whole, and a year is also a whole. Now we look at another dimension of time, the smaller dimension, because we have 3 arms here, 3 hands, and they're pointing to different speeds, The slowest speed is, again, just like above here, is an honoring of the solar cult, because the slowest speed points to the hours, and the word hour means Horus. Horus and hour, they are nearly the same words. Yeah, just put an R in between, and you go from Horus. Mix the letters a little bit, and you come from hour to Horus. But in fact, they are both based on the word Hera, so they have the same base, the same foundation, the same origin. So that's the solar cult, reference to Horus, the sun, Helios. The min is just another word for moon. So the min for minute, the min hand is the moon's hand. Sorry, I have to take this one. This is the moon's hand, and the moon's hand is faster than the first hand, than the sun hand, or the solar hand, or the Horus hand, or the hour hand. And the most fastest of them all is the second. And again, second means Mercury. So it's a reference to Mercury. Actually, this is the Mercury hand. The Mercury hand is one of the 5 planets that reflect light. So it's a reference to the stellar cult. Yeah, the red hand here is the Mercury hand. This is the moon's hand, and this is the sun's hand. So we see here a trinity of the solar cult, the lunar cult, and the stellar cult. And also here we see a trinity of these 3 cults. They are all integrated into one. And it all goes back to ancient Kemet. Now we look at the months. There are 12 months. And again, we see a trinity, because each period of 4 months is in fact a unity. So we see 3 times a quartet of months. And the first month of the year used to be Mars. If you go to the Julian calendar, it started with Mars, because that is the month in which we see the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. And that is actually the start of the year, if we don't understand the role of Sirius, which I explained in the previous part. But from our yearly cycle, it is more logic to start with the spring month, and that is Mars. to say the spring starts in the month of March. And in French, it's very clear because the month of March in English is Mars. So in French, it's clearly that the month of March is referring to the planet Mars. And April is just another name for Venus. So the first month was Mars and the second month was Venus. That's very clear. The neighboring planets of our home planet. Then we had the month of the growth. You can say this is father, this is mother, and this is the child. And the child is here a baby boy or a baby girl. That's Maya, the child. Yeah, it's also a trinity here. Father, mother, child, trinity. And then the child starts to grow and becomes junior. The word junior is related to Junius. And that's the fourth month. So this is you could say the toddler, and this is the young child growing up, becoming also a man or a woman. So that is the first quarter. And then the imagination was finished. Then there was no more inspiration for creating new month names. So they just started counting. The fifth month used to be Quintilius, means fifth month. Then Sextilius is the sixth month. Septembris is the seventh month in Latin. Octoberis simply means eighth month. Novemberis means ninth month. And decimal system, is 10. So Decemberis means 10th month. And then we got an emperor. And he named him, or Caesar means emperor, is the same word. And Julius Caesar, or Caesar Julius, he was so vain to change the name of Quintilius into his own name, Julius. So since then we have the name Julius for this fifth month and no longer Quintilius, because that was the month he was born in. And after him, we got another emperor, Emperor Augustus, and he named again a month after himself, but he didn't choose Septembris because that was actually the name of the month that he was born in. This was the month he was born in, but he chose this month because it also had 31 days. He didn't want to pick a month that had a day less than his predecessor, Julius. So it was also vanity. The funny part is he died in the month of August because the month was named after him. So yeah, I think it's very funny that he died in the month he named after himself. So that's how we got the name August, because it's coming from Augustus, and Julius. July comes from Julius. And Janus, January, is coming from the word Janus, or the name Janus, and it means doorways. So this is the phase in between. After the 10th month, there is not an 11th month, because there's a kind of in between. And at the end of that in between period of 2 months, then we get the month of Februaria, and it became the Februarius is named after Februaria, and that means sacrifice or to take care. So this is actually the last month of the year, and that's why it has the shortest amount of days. And in a special day, we get an extra day. A special year, we get an extra day in this month. Then it becomes 29 days, and otherwise it's 28. So this is actually the last month, and then this is the first month. From this perspective, from the perspective of the star Sirius, is January 1 the start, as I explained in the previous episode of Pateo TV. So now we come back to astrotheology, because this is the basic figure, the basic starting point for astrotheology. This is the yearly cycle. Yeah, the first month, March, is in here, and it goes all the way back to February, and February is here. Yeah, also big part of March, but it's actually here is the beginning of the ending of the last month, February. So there are 4 energies, 4 essences of Earth. Yeah, I explained that it has to do with Taurus. So, but the whole season is also Taurus, because this is the fixed. I will explain that not in this. Yeah, maybe I'll explain it shortly then. There are 3 types. Each season has 3 types. a cardinal one, which sets the tone, a fixed type in the middle, which holds on to the essence, and the mutable one, which is the flexible one. So each season starts with a cardinal one, in the middle, in the heart, is always the fixed one, and the mutable one, M, is always at the last one. Because the mutable has to be mutable, has to be adaptable for the next season that's already coming in. And that's going around. So the fixed signs, Taurus in the middle, Earth, Leo in the middle, fire, Scorpio in the middle, water, and air in the Aquarius in the middle, air. They are setting the tone. They are setting the core energy for each season. So when we ask what time is it, we actually ask where is Horus? That's in the daily time. Where in the heavenly position can we find Horus? That is telling us the daily time. Yeah, if it's right above, depending on where you are, the northern hemisphere, it's noon. But if it's just above the horizon and is rising, then it's sunset, and otherwise it's sunrise, otherwise sun setting. But we can also ask, where is Horus in the annual circle, in the annual cycle? In front of which constellation is Horus at this moment? What time is it? What astrological sign are we in? That's the second question when we ask what time is it. And actually we do mean here, from which direction are the energies coming to us? Which energies are present at this moment? So the question is, when we say what is the time, we actually ask, where is Horus? Horus was a personification of the sun. Yeah, it was personified here. You see Horus personified as a man. A little bit a strange man because it has a head of an eagle or a hawk. But it looks for the rest like a human being. Of course, he has the head of a hawk or eagle or whatever you see in here, because he can fly. He can fly. He flies above in the sky. So it must be a kind of bird. But it also has human qualities. So that's why it was depicted in ancient Kemet as a human being with a head of a bird that can fly. This is how he was depicted in ancient India. His name was then Surya, and Surya had in front 7 horses. These 7 horses are the 7 days of the week. And there's much more to tell about the number 7, but that's what I do in the next episode when I talk about the creation, because the creation shows also about the whole idea of 7. And there are many examples of 7-party unities. So the 7 is a sacred number, is a holy number, is a whole number. Yeah, and you see here, coming from the head, light. So I think it's obvious, it's crystal clear, that this is the sun Helios. Here you see Shamash from ancient Babylonia, or ancient Mesopotamia. And you see the rays of sunlight coming out of his head. So again, this is the sun I name Helios. And this is the symbol of Shamash. You see the sunlight going in directions. And this is how he was depicted in ancient Greece. The head again full of rays, so this is the sun, and he is pulled forwards by 4 horses. And I will explain later on in this broadcast what these 4 horses actually depict, what they mean. This is what the ancient Mayas called the sun. The sun is there called Ahau, or Kini Ahau, sunlight. And Apollo is also from ancient Greece, but a little bit later. Apollo also has 4 horses and also has sun rays on his head. So it actually looks precisely the same as Helios, but it's just a little bit later in the history of ancient Greece. And this is coming from ancient Babylonia. Mitra. And Mitra becomes a little bit boring maybe. Mitra also has the sunlight out of his head. So it's the sun. They make it crystal clear to us that it is the sun. But it is depicted as a human being. And I will explain later on why it is. Because we can become like the sun. We can become enlightened. And that is what it's all about. Here you see another picture of the sun. But now we see 3, looks like Latin letters, look like English letters IHS, but that is not the case. I will explain that. But these three letters, whatever they refer to the sun. Yeah, just like this is an image of the sun. So IHS, as I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but what you see here, yeah, I pronounce it now as IHS, looks like an abbreviation or a name or a reference to the sun. When you go to internet and you type in a search engine these three letters in just an English alphabet, IHS, and you search for images, then you find many, many more like these. All IHS in the middle and all sun rays around it. So it's clearly a reference to the sun. Yeah, I'll come back to that later. First, I want to go to the New Testament, and especially the four Gospels. What you see here is an original part, or a photo of an original part of the Gospel of John. And it was written, if you can see, it was written originally in Greek. Most people think that the Bible was written in Hebrew and also the New Testament, but it is not true. And neither was it written in Aramaic, the language that was spoken around 2,000 years ago in Palestine, or what you want to call it, Canaan. It was Greek. So what does it mean? A word that is very often used in those four Gospels is written in Greek alphabet like this. And it's actually a name. And that name, yeah, we would say this is an I, this is an H, this looks like an S, an O, a Y, and another S. But that's not correct. This is iota, so this is an I, that's true. But this is not an H, but an E, because it's coming from eta, so it's an E. We have to pronounce it as an E. This is the S of sigma, the O of omega, the U of upsilon, and again the S from sigma. And when you put those together, you get this word. So this is how we correctly pronounce it. Jesus, Jesus. Or we can say Jesus, or we can say Jesus. The name Jesus is the English translation of this name in Greek. And it means something different than most people think. Yeah, this is what we get when we go to a search engine and we type in IHS in English letters. But this H is not really an H, it's actually an E. So we have to say yes, 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 yes. So yes. So this is yes. When you understand it, yes, and you get it, you can say yes. So these are all reference to the abbreviation of Jesus, of Jesus, of Jesus. So this is Jesus, 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 Jesus. This is the Society of Jesus. These are the Jesuits. The Jesuits know everything about this. They don't think that Jesus was a human being who was on this planet 2,000 years ago. Of course not. Why would they make these kind of symbols if they didn't know it was the sun Helios? They know everything about the sun Helios and about the true meaning of Jesus. Jesus is a superstar. Why? Because Jesus is a star, is the central star in our solar system, and is the biggest star we can see by far, because it's so close by. So it's a gigantic source of light. It's the superstar in our solar system. And it is portrayed like this. If you look carefully, you see again the sunlight around his head, just like we saw with Mitra, with Apollo, with Helios, and all the others, Surya. They all have sunlight around it. But it's not as clear, it's just a little bit. Yeah, here it's very clear, but most people think that it's some divine creature. No, yeah, of course it's a divine creature, it's the sun. And Jesus lives, of course Jesus lives. Just look in daytime up and you see he is living. Because it's the sunlight and the sun is living. That's why we can live too. So you have to understand that Jesus is not a human being. Jesus is light consciousness. The consciousness of light or enlightenment. It's all about enlightenment. The stories in the Gospels tell us how we can reach that state of consciousness, how we can lighten ourselves. by doing what this Jesus character did, just as an example, not as a historic document, no, as a spiritual teaching. That is the essence. People think that Jesus will come back, have not understand it at all. Jesus comes back the moment you become enlightened. Then you have showed that the Savior has returned. You have saved yourself. Nobody will come to save you. Nobody will. The only Savior there is yourself. And if you don't save yourself, then you are lost. Maybe you get a second chance in another life. It's possible. But if you don't do it in this life, nobody will do it for you. So again, we come back to this story. Is your understanding of Jesus based on sand? If you think that it is an historical document and that he will come back to save you or that he died for your sins, then that will collapse the moment you start to become more conscious. Only when you know the truth, then you can build your house on rock. And that rock, in order to build that house on rock, you have to first dismiss everything which is not true. In fact, that's what I did. You have to start afresh. You have to forget everything the universities and the schools and the religions have taught you. You can just dismiss everything and start afresh. You start like a virgin. You start on virgin ground. That's why the mother of Jesus, of this light consciousness, is a virgin, because you have to start from virgin ground. And then you have to create your own house. You have to do the work. You have to become the carpenter. So that's why the father of Jesus is a carpenter. He makes the house. You have to do the work. It's all a metaphor. It's not an historical document. It's about how you can create your house. Start on virgin ground and then become a carpenter. Or you can say become a Freemason or a Mason. The Freemasons know everything about this. They are not fooled by the nonsense of the Christianity and the other religions as well. They know the truth, at least when they become higher. But in the end, at the top levels, they abuse this truth in order to keep humanity slaved in a ridiculous system. Yeah, they are part of a very big conspiracy. And that's not a theory, that's a fact. Just do your own research, as I did, and many, many others did as well. Yeah, but Freemasons know it's all about creating your house, and your house is your mind, your mental understanding of the truth. Some people say you have to go to your heart. Yeah, that's true, but your heart is only a feedback mechanism. It tells you if it's right or wrong, but it will not help you to understand. Your heart knows nothing. It can only tell you if you are on your own path or not. That's all. Feedback. But in order to make progress, in order to build your house, you need to develop your mind. That's it all about. And that's why most people are so much watching television, because the television is doing the very opposite. It brainwashes you. It makes your capacity to think for yourself lesser and lesser. And the same is true for the school system. Study yourself. Forget everything you have been taught. Start afresh. Do your own homework. Educate yourself. That doesn't mean that everything the university is telling and the schools are telling is false. No, there are true parts too. But there are many, many parts that are absolutely false. And if you want to learn more about this, go to my website. I picked out the biggest mistakes. And if you understand that scam, then you will find your own way. So dismiss at first everything and start afresh. Become a virgin in your mind. And then become a skilled carpenter. Create your house. Understand the reasoning. Understand logic. Understand the basic principles of logic. And understand how we are fooled by many things we see on television by tricks. Yeah, NLP tricks, neuro-linguistic programming tricks, and many other tricks as well. But if you have built your house like a skilled carpenter, those tricks have no influence on you. Yeah, you will easily see them through. Dismiss them as false. So what do we see here in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro? When we look up in the sky, we see Jesus. And that's true. When we do look up in the sky in daytime, we see the sun, Helios. So that's what he's doing. And he's spreading his arms. Spreading his arms means the energy goes in all directions. The sunlight is shining in all directions, and we can receive it. So do you see a human being here, or do you see the sun here? To me, it's crystal clear. But if you are ignorant, if you are a believer, if you are a so-called Christian or whatever kind of religion you want to believe in, then you might not see the truth. The truth is, it's all about the sun Helios. And the same is true for Christmas. Most people think that it's some kind of ancient fairy tale or whatever, or actually that Saint Nicholas actually lived in Turkey. It's all bollocks. It's all nonsense. It's not true. This is another personification of the sun. The sun I call Helios. And the long white hair around his face, his round face, that's the sunlight, like was depicted in ancient times with all kinds of light going in all directions. Now we use white hair, but it's the same idea. Facial hair around the beard and up here, long hair too. So that's the sunlight. And when the sun sets, the sun becomes red. So the red light is the light that we see in the color red on Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas or the Christmas man or Santa Claus or whatever we like to call it. And in between, we see the color gold. And when we look sometimes in daytime when the sun is shining through clouds, we can see a golden light as well. So the light from the sun is white, red, and gold at different periods of the time. And that's why we see the colors white, red, and gold again. And the staff is the sunlight coming to us. That's all. And he is so big because the sun is big. It's gigantic compared to our small planets. So it's a very big belly, but it's all personifications of the sun Helios. That is what it's all about. And why December 25? I'll come back to it. And the Christmas tree, the very same story, because in the top here we see a star, and that star in the top is of course the sun Helios. And this tree is his own family tree. It's the family tree or the genealogical tree or the pedigree of the sun Helios, because the bubbles, they are the planets, and the planets are the descendants of the sunlight, of the sun, because the sunlight gets into magnetic fields, and that magnetic fields eventually create matter, and that matter is becoming bigger and bigger, and that's how the planets are originating from the sun Helios. And sometimes we can see the planets as lights in the sky, as I explained before. When they bounce the sunlight back to us, and they're not too far away, the furthest away is Saturn, then we can see them as lights. So the lights are also references to the bubbles, to the planets, but then when they reflect sunlight. They not always do that, depending on where they are. And of course, there are many other stars as well. So we put them here too, to decorate it. And the ribbons are the planetary orbits. So the planets go round and around, just like the ribbons do. It's crystal clear the moment you get the truth. I've been trying to explain this now for 2 years to the mainstream media, and yeah, of course you've guessed right, they are not interested in this story. Why? They want to keep people believing in fairy tales. Holy science is the biggest threat to the powers that be or were at this moment, because it shows them the truth, and the truth indeed will set us free. This is how it is celebrated in the country that I most of the time reside in. Again, I don't recognize the Netherlands, but I live on the soil for most of the time. But the soil doesn't belong to anybody, and most certainly not to the state of the Netherlands, because that's a legal fiction. Anyway, this is the sun Helios, and the people standing next to him, they personify the planets, just like the bubbles here, but here they are the black peats or the black jacks. There's for 2 years now a discussion in the Netherlands that they say that it's racism, because the white guy seems to be the boss, and the black guys and girls, they seem to be the servants of the white guy. No, that's not true. This one is shining by itself, so that's why it's white. The pink face of this guy has nothing to do with it. It's just explaining the whiteness of the sun, that's all. And the blackness has nothing to do with dark skin. It's just that they personify the planets who do not shine by themselves. they don't emit sunlight. They emit energy, but it's not visible to the naked eye as light. So that's why these don't shine, they don't light, so that's why they're black. This one shines, and he is white. Again, the whole issue of racism has nothing to do with it. I've been trying again this for 2 years now to bring this to the mainstream media because the debate is hurting people. It's creating distance between white and black communities, and that's ridiculous because we're all in the same ship. We're all in the same situation. But the powers that be wants to create division, divide and conquer, and that's why they make this story bigger and bigger every year again. And they don't want me on television explaining that this had nothing to do with skin color, but everything to do with the stars, with the star and the planets. And this non-emitting, sunlight-emitting star planet is holding the sunlight. So that's why this is showing us that the planets reflect the sunlight because it can hold the sunlight. Yeah, in the story in the Netherlands, as it's still celebrated, we use the black jacks or the black peats to personify the planets. But in the story of Santa Claus, they are the reindeer. And if you count them, you find 8. And that's correct. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Did I miss someone? Of course, our home planet too. And then Uranus and Neptune. And these are the 8 planets. Or if you want to count in Pluto instead of our home planet, that's also possible. Yeah, so these are the 8 planets of our solar system in front of the sun. And they pull him around. That's the whole story. And that's why he's up in the sky. Santa Claus is coming from the sky. Why? That's where he is. Look up and you see him. Now we go back to ancient Kemet. And now we talk about Osiris. And Osiris was also a personification, but not of the sun, but of a constellation of stars. Yeah, this is how they wrote the name Osiris. Again, you see a sitting guy with a long beard and an eye. So this is how they pictured it. Yeah, it's not a language with letters like we have, but language with images. And it is a personification. Osiris is a personification of the star system of the constellation of Orion. So Osiris refers to Orion, just like Santa Claus refers to the sun Helios. And here we see the constellation of Orion. Yeah, these are the legs of Osiris. This is his belt. And here we see his arm going up, his right arm holding some kind of thing to hit with. And his left arm holds a kind of shield, or in this case, lion. But this looks a bit like a shield, and this maybe looks like a sword or something. Yeah, one arm up and the other arm in front. So you don't need much imagination to see this in the stars. Yeah, this is another one, the same thing. And these 7 stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these 7 stars, they are the core of Orion. And again, we see a 7-parted unity. And these 3, they form the belt of Orion, Orion's belt. And the previous lecture was all about this Orion's belt. So important in the clock of Giza. They form the key role in understanding the clock of Giza. Yeah, can you still see it? Picture this in your mind. Close your eyes. And now open it again. Yeah, can you see the warrior? Arm up here. Here's the shield in front, the belt of Orion, and his legs. This one, Betelgeuse, is a gigantic star. I will show that later on. We cannot even. My mind is too small to understand how big this one actually is. And these ones are also very big stars. They're much, much bigger than our own central star. But because they are very far away, they look like tiny dots, but they are much bigger. This one has a little bit of an orange color. Yeah, to me, this is my favorite star sign, my favorite constellation. I'm always happy when it's coming back in the sky because we cannot see it all the year round. And yeah, here we see the belt of Orion clearly. And these are the names of the 3 stars. The biggest one of them is Alnitak. And the one almost as big from our perspective, so I mean lightness, brightness of the light, is Alnilam, and this one is a little bit less bright, Mintaka, a little bit less big, so to say. So these are the 7 stars. These are 7-party unity of the constellation of Orion. Now let us look at the sizes of these gigantic heavenly objects. This is our home planet, and this is the moon Luna. Yeah, she's much smaller than our home planet. Yeah, this is our home planet here, but now we go here. This is the same. Yeah, this is Terra here, and this is Terra here. And here we see Venus. Venus is about equally in size, and Mars is much smaller, and Mercury is even much smaller than that. So that's the small planets. Here we see the biggest of the planets, Jupiter. This is Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Yeah, I think this is Neptune and this is Uranus, but it can also be other around. Can we compare the sizes to Jupiter and Terra? This is huge. Yeah. How much time will it take us to go across with an airplane around this, if possible? Here we see Jupiter, very big, but now Jupiter is this small. And this is the Sun. Can you see how much bigger the Sun is compared to Jupiter? And this is Sirius. Sirius is even much bigger than our central star, than Helios. And I have explained previous presentation, part 1, episode 1, this is the Sun and this is the Mother. Mother and Sun standing next together here. And Mother is much bigger than the Sun. And they're dancing together, as explained in the Clock of Giza. Here we see the Sun again, Sol in Latin. This is Sirius. Yeah, the difference seems a little bit different than here, but yeah, it's just about the size. Pollux is much bigger. I will show Pollux later on. Arcturus is even much bigger. And then we continue, because here we see it's just a pixel here, the Sun. Here we see Sirius, and from that perspective we go to Betelgeuse, and that's the one in Orion. So that's gigantic. It's a huge, huge star. Yeah, here we see Betelgeuse, and this is Pollux. So I said here before. Oh, going in the wrong direction. Pollux is here, Betelgeuse is here, much bigger than that. And they are here, Betelgeuse, and this is Pollux. Pollux is one of the twins. These are the twins. Pollux and Castor are the twins of the constellation of Gemini. Yeah, and so on. Here you see Jupiter in front of Aldebaran, and that's part of the constellation of the Bull, Taurus. And here you see again the relation from the Orion's belt to Sirius. And that's almost a straight line. And Sirius is very important. Sorry, something seems to be missing here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this is what I explained in the previous episode of Pateo TV. Sirius is not even one star, but it's actually a trinity of stars, of which 2 emitting light, and the third one in the middle doesn't emit light. So Sirius is very important, and probably life on this planet started from creatures that came from this star system, or stars system with 3 stars, probably from this planet. That's at least what the dogma tell us. So again, that's what I explained previous episodes. So here we see the constellation of Orion, the belt of Orion, and we follow the line from the last 2, the upper 2 stars in the belt, and we take that line, then we come to this beautiful star. This is the brightest star we can perceive, the star Sirius, which is in fact not one star, but in fact there are 2 lights, but the second light is much smaller, and we cannot see that with the naked eye. So that's the brightest light we can see in the night sky. I have to be correct, the brightest star, because Venus we can also see, and Venus is even more bright than Sirius. But Venus is not a star, it's a planet. And when we continue that line, then we reach the horizon at the place where the Sun rised about 2,000 years ago, on December 25. So that was the celebration of the moment that the nights become lesser and the days become longer, or when the light starts its comeback. The comeback feast of the light. That's actually December 25. The rebirth of Jesus. The rebirth of the sun Helios. The rebirth of Horus, or whatever you like to call it. That's what we celebrate here. And that's why Santa Claus comes on December 25, because that moment of rebirthing of the arc on the sky is becoming bigger again. That's the moment of the moment of the rebirthing. So that's why we celebrate it with Christmas. And the Christ, of course, is also born, but I have to say reborn, on December 25. And actually he dies not Easter, but he dies on the winter solstice. That's the actual moment of the death of Jesus. And 3 days later, on December 25, after 3 full nights, then the Son, or Jesus, is reborn. And that's what we see in the Bible. These are the 3 wise men, or the 3 kings. And the 3 kings follow a star, a bright star in the east. This is the brightest star in the east. Now, everything, but this is the brightest star. So the 3 kings now have names. The names are Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. That are the 3 names of the kings, and not the names mentioned in the Bible. That's not correct. Or you can also use them because you can give them any name you want. But this is the names we give them now. So if we make a new Bible in our modern day language, we should be clear about the names of these 3 kings. These are the 3 names. And they follow this bright star. And at that very spot on December 25, that was where the rebirth was taking place. So this is the father. Orion is the father. Isis is the mother. And the child is Horus. Or we can say Joseph, Maria, and Jesus. Doesn't matter. Father, mother, child. And we can even go into more detail, because you can also make it a kind of phallic symbol. And something coming out of that phallic symbol going into the womb and creates a child. If you have a little bit of imagination, you can see that. That's how the ancient Comitians explained it. They were really clear about how the penis of Orion was resurrected by Isis, and she sat on top of it and impregnated herself by it, and that's why Horus was born. That's the story the ancient Egyptians tell us. It's a little bit different than what we find in the New Testament, because that's very crude what we read there. Again, if you look carefully, it's a little bit light already. This is Orion, and this is Sirius, or you can say this is Osiris, and this is Isis. And if you follow this line, exactly where you arrive. Here we see the father, Osiris, mother Isis, and child Horus. And Horus is much smaller than his mother, because this is gigantic compared to him. Much, much bigger. That's why they depict it like this. Yeah, same here. Small child in the middle, father, mother. Osiris, Isis, Horus. And Isis gives energy to Horus. The star Sirius gives energy to our central star in our solar system, to Helios. Helios, our sun, gets energy from Sirius. That is depicted here. Yeah, the breast nurtures the sun. The mother gives energy to the sun. Sirius gives energy to the sun Helios. And when they are close by in the golden age, as I explained in the previous episode, then our consciousness is much higher. Why? Because there is much more energy in the sunlight. The quality of the food, so to say, coming from the breast of Isis is higher. And because that quality is higher, our consciousness is fed better and therefore reaches higher levels. That's why we are awake during the golden age. But in the dark age, which we just left, there was not much energy there from Isis. So we were nearly starving consciously. But fortunately, we left the dark age and we're now in the Bronze Age. The Iron Age is behind us. And this is the way it's portrayed in Christianity, in Christian mythology, because it's mythology. Don't let yourself be fooled that it's a historic story. Nonsense. It's mythology. This is mythology. This is mythology. It's the same story. We don't see the naked breast of Maria You can imagine why, because we are not supposed to know anything about that. But she is also feeding her child. But this is post-feeding and this is pre-feeding. Now we go to the four Gospels. The Gospel of Matthew, which is actually Mattathias in Greek, is always depicted as a man, as a human being. Here we see Matthew as a man, and here too as a man. And when we go to Mark, Mark is depicted as a lion. Mark comes from Marcos, and Marcos means actually man of the sea. And Marcos is depicted as a lion. Here we see Marcos as a lion, and here too. And Matthew means gift of God. These names have nothing to do with Palestine or Canaan or whatever you like to refer to, that territory that is now illegally, unlawfully occupied by Israel. That's ground, that's soil, that's part of this planet. That has nothing to do with this story. It's a general story. And then we go to Luke. Luke comes from Lucas, and Lucas means actually man of Lusania. And Lusania is a region in Italy. This is in Italy. So this has nothing to do with whatever you like to call that part with Palestine. This has to do with Italy. So maybe it's not even a story about that period, about that region. Maybe it's something else. Yeah. Astrotheology shows that it's a general story. It has nothing to do with a specific part of the planet we live on. It has to do with everything, every part of this planet. And Luke, or Lucas, is depicted as an ox. Here you see the ox, and here the ox too. And then finally, John, which comes from Johannes. And my name, Johan, comes from Johannes. Actually, my full first name is Johannes. So I'm named after this gospel. And so my name means God is gracious. I think that's not a bad meaning of a name. And John is depicted as an eagle. All these four gospels, or all these four, I have to say, points of view, they have wings. The man has wings, the bull has wings, or the ox has wings, the lion has wings, and the eagle, of course, has wings, but every eagle has wings. So that's not remarkable. But the wings mean they can fly. It means they are up in the sky. They're up there. That's why we have to look for Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These were not creatures from the past. These were not the writers. They refer to a perspective. They make us look up in the sky to the stars. Again, it's not an historic document. These four Gospels have nothing to do with history. They have everything to do with astrotheology, with science. And of course with spirituality, how to become enlightened. Leo means fire. That's the fire sign. Bull or ox means earth. That's the earth animal. Air is man, because I will explain later on that air is about thinking. And yeah, man is supposed to be able to think. Not everybody is doing that, as I noticed. Most people are so brainwashed that they cannot think anymore. They are not people, but they are sheeple. They blindly follow the herd. But in general, we should be able to think, because that's man. So this is air, and this is gliding a bit like water through the air. So this is, yeah, you would expect air here, but it's not true. The eagle represents water here. Yeah, like also in the first chapter of Genesis, it also talks about the waters. It's all about this, the air, flying. Aldebaran is a very important star in the constellation of the bull, or ox, or Taurus. And in the constellation of Leo, the very important star is Regulus. Yeah, this is lion, or Leo. This is a constellation of Scorpio, or scorpion, or it's also related to the eagle a little bit, because the eagle and the Scorpio are actually the same. I will explain it later. So eagle and Scorpio is actually the same phase in the zodiac, same period in the same part of the zodiac. So that is the star Antares. Antares is here right on the back in the heart of the Scorpio. And Fomalhaut is a star in the constellation of Aquarius. And Aquarius is the man that buries the water barrier. But in all natural cultures, the men do not carry water, females do. So it's a really strange constellation, the water barrier, because it's a male carrying the water. And it's also referred in the Bible. You should go into the house of the man that carries the water. That's of course a reference to Aquarius. That's a reference to the age of Aquarius. We are now in the age of Aquarius, as I explained in the previous episode. Now we come back to Helios, the personification of the sun in ancient Greece. You see the star, the sunlight around his head again. These are the four horses, and these four horses pull Helios around, because these are the four stars I just mentioned. These are Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, and Fomalhaut. Yeah, here are the four stars in the four constellations. Here they are personified as horses in front of Helios, pulling Helios around. And the same is true for Apollo, the same four horses. That's all the names, so we can name each horse. And here we see them on the cross, because they are making a cross when we connect the lines. Aldebaran in Taurus, Regulus in Leo. This is actually Scorpio, but I will show in the next slide later on that Scorpio, Eagle, and Phoenix, and Ophiuchus, which means serpent bearer, they're all in the same direction. So this is all actually Scorpio, and Antares is on the back of the scorpion. And Fomalhaut is in Aquarius, in the water barrier. So they make a cross. They make a crux. Crux is Latin for cross. And in the middle, fixed on that cross, there is the sun. The sun Helios is fixed on the cross. And these four horses, they go round and around and around. And by doing that, they make the sun go through the 12 signs of the zodiac. These are the four horses, and they go round and around and around. But in the middle, always in the middle, fixed on the cross, crucifixed, fixed on the cross, is the sun Helios. That's the very meaning. So indeed, Jesus is fixed on the cross, but it's not a sad thing. The sun is there every day of every year, every age, always fixed on the cross. So do not let yourself be fooled by this image. The sun Helios is fixed on the cross, crucifixed. If you allow yourself to be fooled by the myths and the lies of Christianity, then you become a victim of terror. What they do, what the Vatican is doing, and what all churches are doing is creating terror. They are the true terrorists because they are ignorant of the truth. They are the Pharisees. They are the people who don't know Jesus. Jesus was rebellious against the churches in those days, and he is still. The true Jesus is rebellious, like I'm rebellious now. Actually, I am more Jesus than all Christians together, because I am rebellion. How's it called? I'm a rebel. I'm a rebel with a cause this time, because the cause is the truth. The truth has to be told in order that people like you and me can set ourselves free. So the T of terror is the cross here. So the cross, wrongly explained, becomes the true terror on this planet. I'm now focusing on Christianity, but the same is true for other religions as well. Here you see the Ophiuchus standing, the serpent barrier, Ophiuchus. You see, this is the snake. Yeah, he's carrying the snake barrier, standing with his foot on scorpion. And here you see Antares. So it's the same direction, the same line. And here you see Ara, means it's a kind of parrot, or you can also say eagle. So it's all in the same line. Yeah, but it's all about this star, Antares. Now we can see that the Gospels are perfectly placed, because Luke is about Taurus, is about earth. So this is the most earthly way of presenting the Gospels. And earth has to do with perception. So this is the most factual Gospel. Leo has to do with fire, with action. So the Gospel of Mark is the most the gospel that most encourages us to take action, to do something. That is what Mark is about. John is the most emotional gospel because water has to do with emotion. This is by far the most emotional gospel, water. And this is the most rational, the most cognitive, you can say, the most, from the mind. Matthew is the gospel from the mind. John is the gospel from the heart. Mark is the gospel from the guts, from doing. And Luke is the gospel of the perception, of the senses. That's how we can understand them. And if you have this knowledge now and you look back at that gospels, then you will discover the truth. So there are 12 apostles, and apost comes from post. So there are 12 posts or centennials, 12 centennials standing here on 12 different posts. And they can also be given names. Yeah, I'm not going deep into this. You can easily find this on the internet. But these are the names as mentioned in the Gospels, and you can easily connect them to the 12 signs of the zodiac. So the 12 apostles are the 12 posts of the zodiac, period. Probably you're familiar with this prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, but there's another prayer, and that is Our Mother who art in earth. And that's remarkably not in the Bible, because the Bible is just a collection of 66 different books. But a lot of books are not included. For instance, the Peace Gospel of the Essene is not included, but in that Gospel we find this prayer. And who is our mother? I think you all know who our mother is. Our mother is our home planet. Yeah, thanks to our mother we can live. Our mother gave us our body. This is what we got from our mother. And I name our mother Terra. And when we look from space, we see that she's blue. The surface is about 70% water, so it's a blue planet. It's a water planet. And Earth is, of course, a reference to Earth. So Our Mother who art in earth is a prayer for the yin energies, for the female energies. That means that the other prayer must be a prayer for the yang energies. And that's true. And now we can understand why the yin prayer was cut out of the Bible, because the Bible is only promoting yang. It brings not balance, it destroys balance by only putting forward or bringing it as more important the yang energies. But they are equally important. Yin and yang are complementary. They are in full balance if you recognize it. But the churches, the Christianity doesn't do that. When we look at the Bible, it's all about yang, and yin has been suppressed or left out. There are two more yang energies: wind, air, and fire. Heaven. If I ask you where is heaven, then of course you will say heaven is there, up in the air. So heaven is in the air. Heaven is air. So fire is the one left, and fire must mean Father. So Our Father who art in heaven is not God. Most people think this is a prayer to God. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. This is a prayer to the fire in the air, meaning the sun Helios. The sphere of fire energy up in the air is the sun Helios. And this is the astrological sign for Helios. And this is the astrological sign for our home planet. And the animal that is impersonating these two energies, water and earth, is the snake, because the snake has a skin and a body of earth. It's solid, you can grab it, but it moves like water. It goes like water on the surface. So it's low on the earth and it goes like water. So that's the snake. Snake is just a personification of the yin energies. And that's why Eve is talking to the snake. It's showing it's about yin. And the eagle is up in the air and it has fire. It's a fire animal. It's a hunter. It has fire. So fire up in the air is impersonated animated as an eagle. So this is representing yang. This is representing yin. And when you combine those two, you get the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. But it's also, I'll come back to that in another lecture. And this is, in fact, this prayer, the Father who art in heaven, our Father in heaven, is a prayer for the spirit. And this is a prayer for the soul. And I will come back to that later. So if you pray for your own spirit, I think you should also pray for your own soul. They are equally important. So this is the sun Helios, and this is superstar Jesus. This is also our Father who who art in heaven. This is the Son of God. And the Son of God lives. Indeed, he does. You can see that every day again. And when we want to become like the sun, then we take the color or the metal of gold, because the sun is gold. Yeah, when we look at the Olympics, the number one, we honor that number one as if he or she is like the sun. That's why we give him a gold medal. And we honor the number two as if she or he is like the moon, the second. In this case, it's the second place, because this is the first, the highest, and then becomes the moon. I'll show that later on in the hierarchy of the seven. So then you become like the moon. And the third, we give the bronze medal, which is actually a combination of copper and tin, if I'm correct. So that is bronze, the third place. And here you see again a Trinity. Trinity can say Father, Mother, Child, perhaps. Yeah, I say this is the king of the day and this is the queen of the night. So these are the king and the queen. These are the real king and the real queen. And whatever people think on this planet that they are, it's totally bollocks. No human being can claim to be king or queen. It's total nonsense. There's only but one king, and that's the sun. There's only but one queen, and that's the Luna, the moon. Yeah, this is also much more to explain. This is about the 7 layers of alchemy, also getting a bit tired, but I look now at the metals. Yeah, I'll stick to that. Gold is the sun, silver is the moon, Luna. Mercury is of course Mercury, that's simple. Copper is Venus. Iron is Mars. That's why in the Iron Age there was so much Mars energy, so much fighting going on. Yeah, the soldiers. Ares in ancient Roman time. Yeah, the Romans honored Mars, iron time, iron energy. And when we have iron ladies, yeah, there are many. Angela Merkel, for instance, in Germany, she's an iron lady. Iron energy, Mars. She's full of Mars. Yeah, male energy. Tin is Jupiter, and lead is the most dark, you can say. The black color is also here. Lead is the lowest one. So this is a hierarchy. Gold and silver at the top and lead at the other side. And that's, well, I'll come back later. Saturn is a kind of, enemy or the adversary, or how you call it, the opponent of the sun Helios. And the sun Helios and the moon Luna, they are a couple, king and queen. And this is, you can say, the bad king, the Dark Lord. That's why we like the stories about the Dark Lord so much. This is the Dark Lord, the Lord of the Rings. Sauron, but I'll come back to that in the 4th episode. Now we see that each of the 7, these are the 7 days of the week. And Sunday, Monday, this is Mercury, so this is Wednesday. This is Venus, so this is Friday. This is Mars Day, so this is Tuesday. A Jupiter Day, so Thursday. And these are the Saturday, Saturn. So Saturday is at the opposite of the Sunday and the moon day. They are together, they're next to each other. This is the couple, the king and the queen. And the king houses in Leo, so that's why we have the lion king. The king, lion is the king, and also in the animal world, the lion is the king. And the moon walks a bit like Cancer, like crabs. Yeah, walks sidewards, because we only see one side of the moon, only one face. The back side of the face we never see. So the moon, Luna, walks sidewards. And then we see on both sides Mercury. And then on both sides Venus. And then on both sides Mars. Exactly like we see in the chess game. Yeah, I like this game very much. King and the queen, they are here, sitting next to each other. And on both sides, the bishop. Am I saying it correctly? Bishop, and then the knight, and then the rook. Yeah, every chess player knows this. This is exactly the way it's positioned here. King and queen, 2 bishops, 2 knights, and 2 rooks. And this is the opposite side. This is the king for the opposite side, this is the bad lord, and this is his helper. Saturn and Jupiter, they are opposing the king and the queen, so to say. And that's what the chess game is explaining to us in many other things as well. And we can also put the human body on top of this. It starts with a ram, and now I'll just read the words here. I don't have much time to explain all that, but it starts with a ram, the head. The ram also fights with the head. It puts his head forward, so the ram fights with the head, and it goes all the way down to the feet. There are 2 feet, and the 2 feet, just like the 2 fish of the constellation Pisces. There are 2 fish, and that's Pisces. And so on. We also have 2 arms. Yeah, that's Pollux and Castor. Pollux and Pastor, excuse me. Yeah, again, there's much more to say about this. Go to any website, the 4 I mentioned in the beginning, and you'll find much more information about this. Yeah, especially Santos Bonacci is explaining this in more detail. But I'm running out of time, so I cannot tell much more. There are also themes here. Yeah, I'll take one here. Lion is about will. The lion has a strong will, and so on. So now we can finally come back to where we started, the Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci. And with all that I've just explained, we now can fully understand what he painted. He did not paint 13 human beings. He did not paint a historical event. That's not true. He painted in the middle the sun Helios. And of course the sun is in the middle because the sun is fixed on the crucifix. It's in the middle of the crux. So that's why the sun is always in the middle. That's the first. Then at the start is Aries, the ram. Just like we see here at the start is ram, Aries, the zodiac sign Aries. So Aries, going in the wrong direction, Aries is at the start, and you can also see his forehead is a little bit to the front. So this is clearly Aries. Then you see Taurus, and Taurus, when you look at the neck, it's a bit bigger. So this is the neck of the bull. And then we have Gemini, and Gemini, the 2 arms and the 2 hands, they belong to Gemini, like I showed here. Yeah, the 2 hands, but also the 2 arms is Gemini. So Gemini is here. And they are grouped together. Why? Because that is the season of spring. They belong together. Then we go to Cancer. And Cancer is a bit strange because this is the arm of Cancer, but this is the head, and this is his other arm. So he's walking sideways. He is like the crab. He is Cancer. And then we get Leo. Leo has his fist on the table. Boom. He is the boss. He is the lion. He has the willpower. This is the Lion King. Yeah, you can clearly see. If you look at who is controlling this seems to be the boss. And the only female on this table is not Maria. That's totally ridiculous. The only female is Virgo, because Virgo is a female. Yeah, it's a female sign, Virgo. So that's why Leonardo da Vinci had to paint this sign as a female, and that's what he did. And these are the 3 of the summer. Completely clear. Then we go to Libra, or scales, and that's what this person is doing. If I have to impersonate a scales, then this is what I would do. And I hope that you would guess what I'm doing. So this is how you impersonate a scale, or scales, Libra. And then we look at Scorpio. Scorpio has the 1 finger up, and that is from the tail. If the Scorpio attacks you, it comes on you and bang, it attacks you. This is the tail of the scorpion, the finger. And then we look at Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is beginning to do like this. Yeah, it's not like this all the way, but it's the start of the arrow that goes back from the bow, beginning of the making the bow and then shooting the arrow. So that's Sagittarius doing. And then, very important, both Capricorn and Aquarius are looking away. Why are they looking away? Because, like I explained here, Aquarius and Capricorn, they are the houses of the opposite of the king and the queen. Here is the king and the queen. This is the throne of the king. This is the throne of the queen. And here are the thrones of the opponents, of Saturn, of Satan, you can also say. They belong to Satan. And that's why they look away from the Christ, because Christ is a Christ consciousness of the Messiah, of the Anointed One. If our consciousness becomes like Jesus, as described in the Gospels, then we become just as enlightened as the Son himself. Then we become Christ too. Then we enact the Christ consciousness. And this is the opposite of Christ consciousness. This is the darkest. This is the lead. This is gold. This is lead. Alchemy is about turning gold into lead. Most people are doing like this. When you go to church every Sunday, or whatever day you pick, it doesn't really matter, and you think that you worship Jesus, you are here. You are looking away from the Christ. You are totally fooled. Totally fooled. You are Satan worshippers. That's what you do here. So that's why Capricorn and Aquarius are looking away. And then at the end, we see Pisces. Pisces holding the two hands, showing the two fish. Leonardo da Vinci made a masterpiece. The Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, thought he painted the Last Supper, and they liked it very much because it's fully in line with their bullshit story. But he was so genius that he gave them the impression that he painted what they wanted, but he in fact painted true science. He painted astrotheology. He painted holy science. Leonardo da Vinci is a role model for me. Did you know he was a vegetarian too? I'm a vegetarian for long. And there's much more to say about this genius guy. And what the nonsense about the Da Vinci Code and what Dan Brown wrote about it, it's totally bollocks. And that's why that nonsense is pushed so much and everybody's buying that rubbish book, because it tells you nothing. It tells you nothing. Leonardo da Vinci was a true scientist, a holy scientist, and he had much more to offer than the bollocks nonsense that Dan Brown and all the other fake storytellers are telling the world. So if you listen to this, if you've seen this, do your own homework. Do not believe anything I've told you, even if it was very convincing. Just think that I'm not really clever, that I'm not too smart, and do your own research and check if it's true. Thank you very much for watching. Next week, if you tune in again to CCN, the most important television station at this moment, I think, then I will explain to you the scientific explanation of the creation. And again, the creation is the first chapter of the book of Genesis. And this is the first chapter of both the Bible and the Torah. And in the Torah, it's called the book of Moses. Yeah, so it all starts here with Genesis, and that's true. But it has nothing to do with belief. It has nothing to do with Christianity, nothing with Judaism. It has everything to do with science, because it's a holy science chapter. And if you like this show, then I'll advise you to tune in next week, same time, same channel, and I'll explain that to you. And the week after that, on January the 29th, depending on your time zone, if you're in Australia, it will be already January 30. Then I will talk about covert symbolism. Many people know that there are strange symbols on the backside of the one USA dollar bill, but I've not seen anybody present the whole story. So that's what I'm going to do. I've presented it before, but I'll rehearse that. I'll do that and repeat it again. And I will talk about 5 very popular feature films: The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, The Matrix, Avatar, and The Maze Runner. This is the most recent one. And the symbolism in those 5 films, some of them are books, these are all based on books, is very, very important, very remarkable. So if you understand the true meaning of what these stories are about, it's not about the action. The action is just there to entertain us, but there is a hidden meaning under that. And that hidden meaning, that is what it's all about. That hidden meaning is holy science. They show us holy science, but if you don't know holy science, you think it's just entertainment. It is entertainment for the ignorant people. For the people who are knowing, it is pure food. It is really nourishing if you have the knowledge. If you have the eyes to see, you will see. If you have the ears to hear, you will hear. It's in the feature films that we get seen in the movies and on television and on internet. If you really dig into this, if you really enjoy holy science, and you have time and you have some money left, then join me this month, April, in France. I'll give 2 weeks there, an own energy weeks where I explain everything about energies, but it's for your own constellation, so to say, for your own astrological science and so on. I use 6 different methods, but if you want more, just go to my website. I'll explain everything there. And I have an advanced week. If you already know a lot about astrology and so on, then you are most welcome to join the advanced week. Yeah, you can also do both. You do first own energies week, and then you stay 2 weeks at the same place. It's a beautiful mansion in the northeast of France. The food is superb. The climate is great. The nature is beautiful. It's very much ground around it. It all belongs to the same owners. So we live there in harmony with nature, and you get the time of your life. That's what I promise. So please join me if you want. Yeah, send me an email if you're interested. And again, if you want to help me, which I would really appreciate, because this is my way of getting my income. I don't work. I don't have a job. I don't have any social benefit. I don't want to get money from the state. I want to support myself, and I do that by writing books and giving lectures. Yeah, this one is for free. You get this for free. Mostly when I give it, you have to pay for it. But it's my gift now for you, just as the station CCN is also a gift to you. So I hope you appreciate it. And if you can make a donation, or if you want to buy this book, I would be really, really appreciative. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Pateo TV. I hope you have liked it, and hope you will come back and tune in next time again. Namaste.